Hello, friends and family around the world. This is Will Barney from Enoch Global Services here with another global update here on Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. So much is happening around the world. There's a lot going on. We had an incredible broadcast last Thursday talking about the election fraud information being dropped last Thursday by Donald Trump. We've had time to digest some of that information. We're going to share a little bit more about that. Today's episode is called Evidence Doesn't Lie. And we're going to get into some of this a little bit later in the program, but there's so much going on. We're going to try to give you a recap, if you will, of over the weekend events. And this is also pertains to Iran, which I'll get to a little bit later. So I think this will make sense as we go through this. Starting with, let's go the right direction here. There we go. Starting with our economic news, we have this image that comes from the U.S. debt clock. And I haven't shared stuff every week from the U.S. debt clock. Those of you that are following it know what's going on there. But I thought this image was very poignant for the times in which we live. The battle is on. Executive order alchemy. Okay? Think about all the executive orders that have been issued by Donald Trump. On the left side, you have the USA Treasury. Where is my 100% asset-backed Treasury dollar? On the right, we have Scott Bessent there. We're working on it, sir. Lots of moving parts, the bad guys all around. Okay? So very interesting. We showed a video last week of Jesse Waters interviewing Scott Bessent, talking about the new money coming, in which Scott said it will come out in the fall, and Donald Trump's signature will be on each denomination. So the ones, the fives, the tens, the 20s, the 50s, and the hundreds are all going to have their signature on it. As they were showing the $100 bill, of course, it had the security strip in the middle. Everything on the left side said Federal Reserve. Everything on the right side was gold. That should be an indication to you that we're in a transition. In other words, this is a bridge currency designed to get us through to the other side in which we will have a full sovereign currency. So I'm grateful they're doing this. And I'm saying that because if we were to shift this too quickly and bring the old system down, it would be catastrophic economically. I don't think Donald Trump or the administration, anyone in the administration, is interested in making this any more painful than it has to be upon the American people or the people of the world. America goes down, it massively disrupts the entire world. You could send the entire world into a Great Depression of epic proportions. So very interesting information. If you want to go to the U.S. debt clock, you can keep track of what's going on there. Looking at gold today, gold's down over what it was even just a month ago. We're down at 4,000 an ounce. This chart shows the last 5 days, and you can see that it dipped down quite a bit, and it's bounced back up a little bit. So it's been hovering around that 4,000 to 4,200 mark over the last week or so. This is interesting in light of this information. Silver Trade posted this. The mainstream media is selling the narrative that gold is finished because Russia is dumping their gold. Zooming out for a look at Russia's total central bank gold reserves over the past 20 years offers a bit of perspective. And as you can see, look at that. Look at the amount of gold that they're stockpiling year over year over year. So should be no concern if they sell a little bit of gold here and there. They've got plenty. On silver, as we look at the silver chart today, we hit $58. Yesterday, it dropped as low as $56. Again, this chart is showing the last 5 days. You can see where it dipped down. We hit $56, but it's already back up to $58. There's a lot of movement going on. We're in a war, if people haven't figured this out. And in this war, you have those trying to keep the old system alive, and they're trying to hold the prices down on these metals. But the market is dictating what's happening here, and it keeps pushing it back up because there's only so much manipulation that you can do. Silver Trade shared this coming out of Shanghai. Shanghai silver premium rises to $7 per ounce as silver prices spike up 4%. Silver's now trading at $66.22 on the Shanghai Futures Exchange. This is interesting because you're looking at a solid, basically $7 premium over the price on the COMEX in New York. We've seen this trend going on back 8-9 months, where the Shanghai is offering a higher price on the metal, and this is indicative of the markets are pushing the metal higher. COMEX is dealing with massive, shall we say, manipulations to try to hold that price down. I don't think it can be held down much longer. It's like trying to sink a bobber. It just keeps coming to the top. And this is what we're seeing here play out. So for those of you that are in the metals market and you saw some of these dips taking place, some of you were smart. You bought the dip and you're going to be in a better situation. As we look at this image from Scott Bessent, talking about what's coming with the currency, he says, DTO Rock is not only a great patriot, but an exceptional photographer. His portrait of POTUS will now be immortalized on the new $1 coin, a lasting tribute to a president who always puts America first. Thank you, Daniel, for helping to capture this historic moment. And so there is a $1 coin coming out. It has a gold tint to it. It's not real gold, but it has a goldish tint to it, which is appropriate, I think, for having Donald Trump's face on it. So that'll be the new $1 coin, which will be fantastic to see that when it comes out. Scott Bessent went on to talk about the seed money that's been going into the Trump accounts for the children. We're going to listen to a little bit of information on that here. Take a look.
Go to trumpaccounts.gov. Anyone with a child 18 or under should create the account. If your child's born during President Trump's term, Treasury is going to seed the account with a $1,000 seed investment that'll go into a low-cost index fund. But we're also seeing some of our great philanthropists like Michael and Susan Dell, who are putting $6.25 billion up for America's children. We've seen some people like Harold Hamm has adopted state of Oklahoma, so you don't have to be eligible for the Treasury seed because great philanthropists, foundations are putting money in. Many corporates are putting money in, and we're seeing. I think that this is the most important social benefit for young people since the GI Bill. And I have been an advocate for financial literacy for more than a decade. It's very important to me. My family has been one of our philanthropies. And I think that this is going to be great for financial literacy. 38% of American households don't own equities. And the goal of this is to eradicate that. And it'd be a lot more viewers for you, Maria.
Yeah.
Over $150 million was placed into Trump accounts for the children over the last 2 weeks. This is fantastic as there are millions now taking advantage of these Trump accounts. If you've got babies, grandbabies, whatever, that are at that stage of life and you want that extra $1,000 to go to the Trump account, you can do that. It is not required, of course, to have the government contribute $1,000. Anyone under the age of 18 can technically get a Trump account, and you can start contributing to it now anyway. So it is for all the children, but those new babies that are born during this current Trump administration will receive an extra bonus, $1,000 deposit by the Treasury, which is really nice. Bitcoin Magazine shared this. Senator Mark Warner talking about the Clarity Act, saying they want it done, but they're still working through ethics issues. Take a look.
Just because I do want you to hear this. As one bipartisan group still trying to get a Clarity Act done. We touched on this briefly. You would not want a Clarity Act that increased the ability of illicit finance to take place suddenly with the blessings of law, would you?
Well, thank you, Senator. I mean, it's vital that the Clarity Act provide tools.
Could you speak a little closer?
It's vital that the Clarity Act provide rules and tools for the Treasury Department and the administration to be able to counter illicit finance.
So you would be concerned if the Trump Department of Justice, with technical assistance, said that the standard proposed by industry and some of my Republican colleagues would actually make it easier for illicit finance to take place. This has just happened the last couple of days. That would concern you, wouldn't it?
It would be concerning, yes, Senator.
Good. I tend to work with you and the Secretary. I want this done, and I am tired of being in crypto hell. But we got to do it in a way that doesn't make this circumstance worse. I want America to lead in digital assets. But if we get it wrong, the downside ramifications could be huge as well.
So just a little perspective. Of course, it's coming from a Democrat senator. I should have made that clear before this. I want you to get an idea of what the arguments are as we're looking at both sides of this. Senator Kevin Cramer talked a little bit about the Clarity Act here. He's, of course, pushing to get this done. The House is finishing their work this week, but the Senate will still be going for 2 more weeks. But take a listen to what Senator Kevin Cramer, and he talks about this Clarity Act. Will we get it done before the August recess? Well, we'll see how this plays out, but he seems to want to.
Senator Kevin Cramer, he sits on the Senate Banking Committee. Senator, great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for weighing in here.
My pleasure.
So here we are. It is the week of July 20th. What can you tell us about the status of the Clarity Act?
Sure. So it's getting a little clearer, the Clarity Act, as each little issue gets dealt with. Right now, I think the biggest issue is waiting for Democrats to read the new amendments that have been negotiated, some of them relevant to the ethics piece of it, which you heard Cynthia talk about a little bit, I think, in that interview last week. It sounds like there's some agreement that the Department of Justice would be the prevailing enforcer, which makes all the sense in the world to me. I mean, I think the Democrats would rather have states attorneys general, things like that. I think that creates too disparate a situation to have the clarity that the industry needs. Certainly some of the stuff as it relates to the securities intermediaries definition is challenging. The industry doesn't like that. They would rather have decentralized be decentralized, that being the definition. All of these things are nuanced, obviously, in small details, but I think we're almost there. Maria, I don't know that we get to it this week, but remember, the Senate is in session for a couple of more weeks past this one. I know the House is done this week, but we do have a couple of more weeks. But I'm with Cynthia. We have to get this done, in my view, before the August recess.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of
clarity.
So there you go, listening to a senator from both sides of the political aisle on this Clarity Act. Will they get it done in time? I'm pretty certain the Clarity Act is going to be passed just in time when it's needed. And I'll make that clear because this is being carried out the way it needs to be carried out. And so I'm not too concerned about what's happening in that regard because we've got momentum. We're moving in the right direction. We're going to get there. Moving on to Department of War, dropping Q proofs continually now, as this has been going on ever since we had the UFC fight on front of the White House lawn on the 14th of June. Again, continuing to confirm the Q drops. Amazing. Take a look at these first ones here. Checkmate. This one was posted on the 17th, July 17th. I thought it was interesting they posted Checkmate on the 17th. You can take that as you wish. I don't think there are coincidences. Next, we have this one that came on the 20th. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No mercy. And of course, it says never back down. Never back down was something that posted up numerous times in the Q posts. And we saw that carried out. So a lot going on here as we watch this stuff unfold. This one, no games. This is fascinating. Of course, that was also a Q post. Unlimited games, no games. Take a look at the video that the White House put out that kind of goes along with this.
Never had it like we have it now. And Iran knows that, and they've been put on notice. If you f*** around with us, if you do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
The 47th President of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when he tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. And now, if you don't know, now you know.
The former regime had every chance to make a peaceful and sensible deal. But Tehran was not negotiating. This operation is a clear, decisive mission.
There is no way in the world that this terroristic regime was going to get nuclear weapons, not under Donald Trump's watch.
Of course, during this No Games video, they're talking all about Iran and what's happening with Iran. But what's significant about that? Why is it Iran? Why are we at the crux of Iran? We're at the crux of Iran because they are the private army of the cabal. The cabal is the invisible enemy that's been enslaving the entire world, and this is their private army. This is why it's fighting out in Iran. This is why it always had to be this way. This is why when they say no games, and they're talking about Iran, what they really mean is no games to the real enemy, who are the ones behind Iran. It's important that we take a look at this. And with this in mind, now let's move to Iran. Iran continues to FAFO. Most of you know what that means. Let's get this from U.S. Central Command. CENTCOM statement on recently fallen and missing U.S. service members. On July 17th, 2 U.S. service members in Jordan were killed in action as U.S. Central Command and partner forces defended against Iranian ballistic missile and drone attacks. Additionally, 1 service member is currently missing. 4 American service members were medically evacuated to Jordanian hospitals. They have since been discharged. Other personnel who were evaluated for minor injuries have returned to duty. Out of respect for the families, the CENTCOM will withhold additional information, including the identities of the fallen warriors, until 24 hours after the next of kin have been notified. CENTCOM then posted this. CENTCOM finishes latest wave of strikes against Iran. U.S. Central Command hit surveillance sites, military logistics infrastructure, underground weapons storage, and maritime capabilities. U.S. forces employed fighter aircraft, serial drones, and warships, in addition to other assets. CENTCOM continues to hold Iran accountable at the commander-in-chief's direction while fully enforcing the naval blockade against Iranian ports. More than 50,000 American service members are operating across the Middle East and remain vigilant, lethal, and ready. Eric Daughtery posted this with Scott Bessent weighing in on the Iranian war part and how finance is part of the battle. Let's listen to what Scott had to say about the part that the Treasury is playing in this fight against Iran. Take a look.
Most, if not all, of their capability to rebuild. And then we moved on to what we call economic fury. And that's a 1-2 punch. It's the blockade. And then what we're doing at Treasury, and we are tracking these accounts all over the world. We froze a crypto wallet linked to the IRGC the other day, about $130 million. We have found the money man for the Ayatollah, and we are tracking the Ayatollah's properties around the world. We hope to soon be able to print his $100 million plus properties and show the addresses. And we're preserving this money for the American people, but most of all, we are constricting the regime. Their currency has collapsed. It is at an all-time low versus the dollar. It's in free fall. And we think the inflation rate is upwards of 180%.
So 180% collapse to the Iranian rial currently against the U.S. dollar. Very big news there as we look at that. Now, the reason I wanted to share this and how it goes along with our headline, Evidence Doesn't Lie, is because the evidence they're finding of the Ayatollah's, all the stuff that, like he said, $140 million palace somewhere, and they're going to actually show the addresses and pictures. This is going to be interesting as we see this stuff come out. The people of Iran will see this as well. And they should see this, because we're going to be seeing how evil has been carried on by the use of money, and most of it is in the current fiat money system. So print money out of thin air, use it to pay everybody off, corrupt them, and try to control the world with fake money. This is going to come to a head here very soon. Rapid Response 47 shared this. Iran's been given every opportunity to negotiate and show they're reasonable on the Strait of Hormuz. Let's listen to Pete Hegseth as he talks about what's going on with Iran and how they've been given every opportunity. And they're just not taking it. Take a look.
Something no president's been willing to do. 47 years, they build up a conventional capability like the North Koreans did. Remember, that's how North Korea made their way to a bomb. So much weaponry that no one was willing to stand up to them. President Trump was, and it continues to this day. Iran's been given every opportunity to negotiate, to show that they're reasonable on the Strait of Hormuz. But if they're going to shoot at commercial shipping, then we're going to hit them, as the president said, 10 times harder, which every night we're degrading them further and further. And the president has all the options necessary. If they want to talk, they can talk. Otherwise, they can deal with the War Department, and we're prepared to do that.
So we just keep hitting them every night as we're going forward with this. So One America News shared this. U.S. forces have struck Iranian military command centers, missile and drone launch sites, maritime capabilities, air defense systems, targeting Tehran's ability to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM says U.S. forces remain ready to respond to any further Iranian aggression. And of course, they shared a little video that goes with us. Take a look. Of course, it amazes me how clear these images are coming from satellites hundreds of miles away. Amazing. So is Iran going to get through this issue unscathed? No. It looks like we keep cutting them off everywhere we turn. Moving on back to North America now, Canadian tariffs. Donald Trump is implementing tariffs here in August against Canada, and he has a few things to say about that. In the message today, he met with the Lebanon Prime Minister at the White House today. Afterwards, there was a press conference, and some asked him questions about these Canadian tariffs. I'll let you listen to his response. Take a look.
Last night, the Canada tariffs. One, are those a response to the wildfires in?
No. That's separate. We're looking at that separately.
And what is there anything Canada
It's only
can do?
response to the way they've treated our farmers and our people. Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years, for many years, and no other president's done anything about it. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. Many friends that live in Canada, but their leadership, from Trudeau to the current leadership, I mean, in all fairness to them, they need us to survive. Without us, there's no way they can survive. So, but they've been very, very tough over a period of the last 50 years, actually.
So those tariffs are going to go into place here in August. Like I said, here we have the United States Trade Representative, Mr. Greer, giving his thoughts on what's going on with these tariffs. Take a look.
Countries who retaliated against the United States. One was the People's Republic of China, and the other was Canada. Some of the things they did is they banned the sale of U.S. liquor and other booze on Canadian shelves. They capped and limited the amount of autos that could be shipped to the United States from companies who were reshoring to the U.S. And they also continue to maintain limited space for market access for U.S. dairy. But importantly, they give other countries better deals on each of these three issues. And so it was a natural consequence after a year of these measures being in place, and longer in the case of dairy, for the president to take action.
So for those of you in Canada, and I have many friends there, there's a lot going on. Why is all this happening right now? Well, it's time to bring some things to an end. As we're getting into the second half of 26 now. There's going to a lot be coming to a head over the next 3 months. And it's going to get really dicey by the time we get into late September, early October. No different for Canada, all moving to a conclusion of these things. Now we're getting into the details of the evidence on the election fraud as this people have been digging through what has been presented by the White House. I want to start here with Just the News. They conspired to provide doctored evidence to the President of the United States about foreign invasion of our elections, and they must be held accountable. Listen to this brief message from Mike Davis.
Yeah, I mean, when you have evidence that China, for example, has the voter files for 200 million Americans, and they have Chinese Americans with fake driver's licenses, Chinese nationals, not even Chinese Americans, with fake driver's licenses, registering to vote, trying to vote in elections. When you have evidence that our foreign enemies like Venezuela can access our voting machines, that's a major problem. And that's something that the decision makers need to know. And these intel agents are not the decision makers. It's their job is to present evidence and including the competing views to the decision makers like the President of the United States, so the President can make informed decisions. And they did the opposite here. They obstructed that. They conspired to provide doctored evidence to the President of the United States about a foreign invasion of our elections, and they must be held accountable. They must be arrested. They must be charged. They must be held accountable.
They actually had captured text messages from some of these members in the first Trump administration where they admitted to each other that they were creating a shadow government to hide the information from the president. Incredible what we're seeing go on here. John Solomon had some things to share here. He says, I'm going to correct my old colleague. They weren't newly classified. These were newly declassified information. Take a listen to this brief exchange about this information that's being dropped now.
What's funny is that one of the best shticks of the left, they love having someone, a staffer at their network, bring them documents in real time, live and in time. This was just declassified, and now it's on my desk, and I'm going to read it to you. They never cared about vetting anything then, but John King seems to think that CNN now cares about it.
I'm going to correct my old colleague. They weren't newly classified. They were newly declassified. He got that wrong. His network was given a 5-hour opportunity, like you were,
yes,
to look at the documents and weigh them. This wasn't about checking the accuracy. They didn't care about the accuracy, and they proved it after the documents were out and all day today. So shame on them. And by the way, if you're concerned about it having a history of inaccurate information, CNN's coverage of Russia collusion is like a bad comedy, like a C-rated comedy. I can remember times where they report Alpha Bank was the secret location where Vladimir Putin was communicating with President. And every time I call the FBI, like, that's not true. We rolled that out. And then in the hearing, Bob Mueller came out and said, that was never, ever true. CNN fanned that for years. Yep. John King, worry about accuracy on CNN. Don't worry about the president's accuracy. Last night, the information he put out was vetted by the CIA and the NSA. They agree it was accurate.
Isn't that interesting? Of course, John, going after another network, in this case, NBC, they've gotten it wrong. How long have these networks been lying to the people? How long has the networks in Europe been lying to the people? How long has the BBC and other such networks been lying to the people, making up whatever story to spin things in whatever direction? The evidence doesn't lie. The evidence shows exactly what they were doing. And as we get into potentially, as we get through the election fraud, which then leads to treason, which then leads to crimes against humanity and the COVID stuff and all of that, which leads to Nuremberg 2.0 trials. What does all this mean? In Nuremberg, if you look at your history books and you go back to World War II when they did the Nuremberg trials, there were doctors, there were media people that hung in those trials for crimes against the people. Could we see something similar with some of these media people also being hung for being involved in the crimes? We're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, put out this video that shares he's been talking about voter problems all the way back to 2020, now 6 years. Mike is now running for governor in the state of Minnesota. Tim Walz, of course, is a terrible example of a governor. Mike's running for governor there. He has a full endorsement of Donald Trump. But Mike put this video out on his channels, and I thought it did a very good job of actually highlighting some of the incredible fraud that was going on in several different states. Take a look.
The air gap. We were told the machines weren't connected to the internet. The forensic record says otherwise. In Michigan, forensic examination of DS-200 tabulators confirmed every unit had an active Verizon 4G cellular card installed at PowerUp, configured to transmit election results over the public internet. ESS CEO Tom Burt had represented under oath they were disconnected. In Antrim County, a Dominion device held unallocated storage artifacts, resolving to a Taiwan Ministry of Education IP and a German cloud server. In Pennsylvania, adjudication devices were accessed from a Canadian IP without any state authorization. At the hardware level, nearly 50% of the programmable components were Chinese manufactured, leaving reprogrammable hardware exposed to CCP surveillance authority. The back-end systems ran in Serbia on a Huawei-partnered platform, a vendor explicitly banned from U.S. infrastructure due to espionage risks. These physical breaches turned air-gapped systems into exposed network nodes. And that Michigan tabulator? It wasn't an isolated box, but an active node transmitting on the public internet.
And there you go. Multiple pages of all their findings. Mike has spent a lot of his own money and fortune to disclose all of this. And of course, we now have DNI, CIA, FBI, and others that are now verifying this information. In fact, the FBI, the CIA, the DNI, all validated every claim made by Donald Trump in his last speech. Before he gave the speech, he actually asked them to vet everything and make sure it was accurate. They said that it was. Amazing. Moving on here to Tiffany Meyer, tonight posted this conversation that she had with Jeff Clark. This is just a corruption of the process at a level that we've never seen before. We're also taking information that, if it was all presented in an organized way, would have clearly shown that China was engaged in the dangerous efforts and acquired dangerous capabilities. Take a listen.
Well, I would like to see criminal prosecutions. Let me just kind of summarize the tools I've seen in the document so far that I've been able to get through. You have that document that says that this woman, Nikki Flores, was involved. She was on the Foreign Influence Task Force at the FBI, and about the number 2 official on counterintelligence. She said she's massaging the presidential daily briefs. I mean, that is just corruption of the process at a level we've never seen before. They also were taking information that, if it was all presented in an organized way, would have clearly shown that China was engaged in dangerous efforts and it acquired dangerous capabilities. But instead, they split it up into multiple documents so that sense couldn't be made of them. And then there also was her saying that she was running a shadow government to keep this from Trump. And I can also tell you from my experience inside DOJ that there were all kinds of things that were not investigated. So one of the things that came out last night was that the FBI Albany office found out that the Chinese had exploited TikTok data, and they were using that to register fake voters. And the FBI Albany office thought they had people dead to rights on that. But, it was allowed to die at the end of Trump 45. And then it was just sat on and nothing was done with it through the Biden administration. Sadly, Tiffany, some of these things might be beyond the statute of limitations at this point. But I mean, look, I bet that there were still actions related to conspiracy against Trump that tie into bringing all this lawfare against him that Jack Smith did that can show that there were still actions taking place more recently such that they would fit within the statute of limitations.
So some of these things have been going on so long they may be outside statute of limitation, but it doesn't stop this from being further exposed. John said this, just the news, Donald Trump, for the first time, did what the intelligence community failed to do in 2020. He proved election interference by showing that China had targeted our voter registration data. Of course, they got the registration data on over 220 million Americans. Incredible. This came out just today by Epoch News. A breaking New Jersey governor says 6,600 non-citizens registered to vote due to a software error. For those of you that live in New Jersey, you tell me, was it a software error that registered 6,600 illegal aliens to vote? What do you think of this information? Does the governor and others in the state of New Jersey get away with this information? Calling it a glitch? You be the judge. Moving on to other news, as we had last week on Thursday, we had a ministerial on political terrorism taking place. I wanted to share something with you here, and Miranda Devine replayed this, and I thought it was appropriate to share this piece of Stephen Miller's speech that he gave at the Ministerial. Miranda said this, one day people will look back at this brilliant speech by Stephen Miller and see it as a turning point. Only America has the will to restore beauty and order and normalcy, and if it happens, it will be thanks to statesmen like this. Let's listen to Stephen and this brief presentation.
The leftist looks at what is beautiful and what is good and what is natural and is filled with envy and hatred. The leftist looks at a perfect family with a perfect life and a perfect job and perfect kids that goes to church every Sunday and is filled with a feeling of inadequacy and jealousy, and they covet, and they turn those emotions ultimately into a desire to subjugate, to oppress, and to inflict pain and suffering. It's not a coincidence that when you look at these violent Antifa demonstrations, you see any photograph of those who were assembled. To be blunt, not one of the people that is demonstrating looks like a normal person. Not one looks normal. They're all deformed in some way in their appearance, in their dress, in their mannerism. Why is that? Why, if you look at two photographs and you see a normal American street, you see an Antifa protest, why do the people that are violently demonstrating, why is there not one normal-looking person among them? Every one of them, through the course of their life and their decisions, has scarred their body and their appearance in many different ways, to the point in which their outer appearance becomes a manifestation of their inner hatred. Trust your instincts. To all people and across all civilizations, you know what normal is. You know what beautiful is. You know what good is. You know that families are right. You know that children are precious and beautiful and must be protected. You know that the criminal and the junkie and the predator is a threat to normal, healthy living. This is so much deeper than issues about taxation and regulation, although they're incredibly important. It's about normal, healthy, ordered living. And the violent leftists, for these deep-seated reasons, going back to the earliest wisdom taught to us in the Bible about coveting. And I'm not talking about rich versus poor. I'm talking about a much deeper kind of coveting. Coveting people who are morally superior, who are superior in the simple, truthful way they live their lives. People that they look at who are happy and ordered and peaceful and contributing to the communities. That burns an ember in them, and that's how you end up with the horrors we've seen throughout history, where good families are dragged out into the street and executed. And you might say, again, you're describing a future that seems impossible to conceive of. When it comes to preventing these horrors, it is the burden and the duty of good people of all walks of life to understand that you will always be accused of raising the alarm too loudly. If you wait until the point where the worst outcome is so obvious that no one can deny it, you've already lost the battle. That's the fundamental point. If you say, I will not raise this alarm until the threat is so present and so clear and so obvious and so imminent that none can deny it. It's already too late. It's already too late. I would rather prevent a threat from occurring and be accused for the rest of my life of having falsely raised the alarm, knowing in myself that I was right, than for fear of being judged having waited too long until the point of no return has been crossed. The good news is that we are far away from the point of no return. So all of us should organize together and work together for the good and the benefit of all the people in our societies, of all walks of life, of all persuasions, to deliver for them what they are justly entitled to, which is to live with safety, with fundamental human dignity, and with the ability to live in peace and harmony with their families and neighbors.
Incredible speech. That wasn't his entirety of his speech, but I thought that segment deserved to be played in its entirety. I think everyone around the world should hear that, listen to that, replay it if you need to. Great and very poignant speech, particularly for the times in which we live today. Breaking, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has just found $100 million in fraudulent payments that would have otherwise gone to deceased people. Take a listen to what Scott says here. It's amazing this kind of fraud is going on in the government. $100 million. Wow.
Common sense agenda. It's common sense. And President Trump issued an executive order for us to be able to go to the do not pay, to have it interact with the Treasury payment systems. And as a result, so far we've saved about $100 million, payments that didn't go to deceased people and that would have gone out. We think that there's up to $350 million that we can stop before the end of this year, and that goes along with the Vice President's task force on eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. The GAO estimates that it might be, this number might be up to $500 billion, which is about 1.66% of GDP. So that could go a long way towards paying down the debt, providing more services. And this is just the start, Maria.
That is incredible. I mean, for all of the fighting that we see back and forth between the Republicans and the Democrats about governing and about allocating capital and spending money on projects, to think that there's all these millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars that have actually been, on the cutting room floor because of fraud and waste that people just weren't paying attention to. I mean, is that all it is, that people didn't look at?
One of the things that's interesting about this, he said they could potentially save up to $500 billion in what has been fraudulent payments going out of the Treasury. Remember last year they upgraded all of the systems to be blockchain compatible with full digital system, all payments to go out digitally. Now they're able to track everything. They're able to trace it back and to see where it's going. This is allowing a lot of cleanup to occur. This is a lot of money. This is more than the budgets of some countries, entire countries. It's incredible, all just in fraud. Amazing. Secretary Marco Rubio had some things to say about Cuba. This was yesterday. For more than 6 decades, the Cuban regime has been the leading sponsor of radical leftism and third worldism in the United States. The State Department is exposing the full history of Cuban espionage and subversion in our country. The American people deserve to know. You can go to state.gov and there's information on what's been going on by the Cuban regime. This is in preparation. Cuba's going to go down. The communist regime is going to be eliminated. This is all about preparation, getting everybody ready for what's coming. White House posted this: I'm asking all House representatives to vote yes on this very important budget resolution. I'm watching the vote very closely and hope Republicans can unify to secure elections against all forms of foreign country interference and illegal alien voting. President Donald Trump. The current budget resolution, which is about approving the budget for the new year, starts October 1st. What they've done is they've taken the Save America Act and they've made it part of the budget bill. This was done by the House just last week to combine those together. Donald Trump saying, let's get it passed, let's fund the government, and let's save the country at the same time. So we'll have to see how they respond. Of course, it seems to be there's a big logjam in the Senate, so this is problematic. Turning our attention now to Department of War. Today they held, shall we say, hearings about this budget, okay? And this was going on in the House as they were talking about why does the military need so much budget this year? I'm going to let Secretary Hegseth, the Department of War, explain why that is in his own words.
Senator, I wouldn't, of course, agree with your characterization, but why this kind of spending is needed is because of the gross negligence and neglect of the Biden administration inside our department. Ran it like a bureaucracy, abandoned our strength posture around the world, so we're having to reestablish deterrence. You mentioned the end strength numbers, and I will acknowledge that we are ahead of schedule on end strength in recruiting. 8,000 in the Navy, 6,000 in the Army, 4,000 in the Air Force. Because under President Trump, there's been record and historic over 30-year recruiting records inside our department since he won the election, because the American people didn't want to sign up for what Joe Biden was providing our military. And they want to sign up for what President Trump is doing in his leadership. And so those are good problems to have that we need to fund and a reflection of momentum. And this budget will allow us to continue the kind of momentum that gets us ahead.
My point is that
of course, another Democrat senator pushing back against the Department of War. It's amazing. Then this interaction again with Secretary of War, this interaction about what's going on and how our adversaries are viewing this dysfunction in Congress. When they see Congress pushing back against all that is good and right, it has to embolden our enemies. You would think it would. Take a look.
To think that the dysfunction of this body, whether it's the full shutdown, a partial shutdown, not being able to pass NDAA, not being able to pass FISA, I would have to think that our adversaries look at that and it gives them a little bit more credence as to what they're doing abroad. Can either one of you comment on that?
Thank you, Senator. That's why I've said, and I will continue to say, that the inability to properly fund this department, the Department of War, is probably the single greatest threat our nation faces. Whether or not we will make a generational investment in not just winning the wars currently, but deterring the wars of the future, given the step change in technology of this moment and the underfunding of the previous administration. You didn't mention continuing resolutions, which is a whole nother way our department has foolishly budgeted. So I appreciate you highlighting that. It's very true.
So we've got a lot of work to do to try to get these budgets passed. In other news, Spain wins the FIFA Cup this year. World Cup, they go home back to Spain with the World Cup. Amazing. They beat Argentina and took home the trophy. So that was really nice. We had millions of people visiting here in America for the World Cup events. Many that came and appreciated all the things that America has to offer. A lot of great tourism that took place during that time, and now they get to go home celebrating, particularly in Spain. Moving on to other news, again, more fraud being exposed. This is starting to become like an every week topic, isn't it? It's amazing. Secretary Kennedy announces the Trump administration is pausing more than $1 billion in Medicaid payments to California and Minnesota. So just two states, $1 billion. Take a look.
Is pausing more than $1 billion in federal Medicaid payments to California and to Minnesota because of suspected fraud and noncompliance. That includes more than $867 million for California and over $200 million for Minnesota. If those states want that money, they need to provide documentation that these payments are legitimate.
So putting the screws to the states to now prove that the payments are real in order to get the money. I'm glad to see that we have accountability returning to government. Amazing. In staying true to the theme as we close out today's segment with Secretary Kennedy, he's doing a great job cleaning up the fraud. We've had a couple of podcasts here where we've talked about this issue. Remember the bison in Yellowstone Park? And the guy goes in and they get in they tossed him into the air and all that occurred. Well, the memes just don't stop around the internet. But now take a look. We have Secretary Kennedy. Of course, this is AI generated. But Secretary Kennedy's going to tame that bison, and they're going to become friends. We're going to close out today's segment with a little bit of fun. Take a look. I love how the video ends cooking up some bison burgers. Very, very interesting. They're barbecuing. Amazing. That comes to the conclusion of today's episode. Evidence doesn't lie. The evidence is going to keep pouring out. We're in for 3+ months of going to be lots and lots of disclosure. Buckle up, people. If you think this has been getting crazy, you haven't seen crazy yet. More of this is coming as we go through the next many weeks, showing the people. Those of you that watch these episodes are probably the more awake, but there's going to be some that are still waking up, trying to figure this stuff out. You can share some of these videos with them. We appreciate it when you do, when you like, share, and subscribe these with the world. It does help more people to understand the things that are going on. We try to give a positive spin to what's happening. Because none of this is happenstance. We've spent years getting to this point when we could reveal these things and make right what has been wrong for so long. For those looking to hopefully book a consulting appointment with me, there is some availability on the calendar. I haven't looked at the calendar in a bit, so I'm not sure the availability, but you could go to enochgs.com, and at the bottom of the homepage, there is a link there to that calendar. And get an opportunity that you can speak with me one-on-one, and we can discuss your projects, structuring, how you're getting stuff set up and ready for the coming events to be great humanitarians to the world. We would love to be an assistance and help you as you move forward in this endeavor. Thank you all for being with us again for another global update here on Tuesday, the 21st of July. So many wonderful things taking place. We are taking back our country. We're taking back the world. We're conquering evil all over the place. Iran's going to be continuing the news for just a little bit until that's resolved. It will be resolved. Don't worry about that. The capabilities are certainly there to do so. In the meantime, we hope you stay safe. We hope that you're staying ready for current events that could be a bit turbulent. Many say you should have food, water, shelter, some basic things just to weather what could be a difficult storm. I do think that the important part is that the storm is here. We're not waiting for a storm to arrive. It's here now. It is being waged. And thank all of you who stand in the gap. You're doing the work as patriots around the world. And I know many of you from many different countries, and each of you are standing in solidarity for your country. Thank you for doing that, for preserving your rights, your heritage, your culture, and your freedom. There's going to be more to come and more work to do in this, but the result will be that we throw off these control grids. We move forward in a place of sovereignty, peace, and most importantly, prosperity. As the golden age continues to roll out and gain speed, we're going to see so many wonderful things happen. I believe Elon Musk said numerous times we would be in a place of universal high income. He didn't say it would be basic income or anything like that. Universal high income means everybody is doing well. And that's what we get when we have freedom and prosperity that goes across the world. It's coming. We're working on it. We're doing the best that we can. Thanks, everybody, for being with us again for another night. We will only be doing this one broadcast this week. We'll be picking up next week. Unfortunately, I've had a death in the family, and we'll be traveling to a funeral. So this will be the only broadcast this week, but we'll be back again next Tuesday with another global update, and we will see you all then. Have a great night, everybody. See you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.